DreamWorks is an animation studio company that was founded in 1998, and ever since then they have been creating countless classic movies. They are famous for creating the likes of Shrek, Kung Fu Panda, and my personal favourite, Monsters vs. Aliens, aka the first movie I ever saw at cinemas. In the year 2010, however, they released a movie titled How to Train Your Dragon, and this film in particular boomed in popularity and became a mainstream success. It got tons of merchandise, it won 2 Oscars, it even got its own pantomime special similar to the Walking with Dinosaurs live spectacular. It's had throughout the time numerous TV shows and 3 movies. The second movie, from 2014, is my personal favourite. It had more epic stuff going around. It was a lot more, more serious. It had new characters. It had a real villain this time, and I just enjoyed it all the way through. But the third movie, on the other hand, I became a fan of How to Train Your Dragon in 2018, but by the time 2019 came around, I just already went off it. I have watched it before it, back in 2010, but 2018 is when I became an absolute fan of it, a big fan. And when I heard about this movie coming out, and they did say, it was, to be fair, I think this movie probably would have been better off being released in 2018 because, there wasn't a single DreamWorks movie being released that year. If it was released that year, it probably would have left a 4-year time gap between all 3 films. And second, like I said before, I was a massive fan of it back in the day, so it probably would have worked well, to be fair. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. I mean, you can't really judge the studio for it because they were doing they were going through things around that time. So, yeah. Anyway, on the flip side, I didn't really get the chance to watch this particular film, The Hidden World. I was more occupied looking at other stuff. And like I said, by the time 2019 came around, I already gone off How to Train Your Dragon. So, yeah, it was unfortunate. The story is about Vikings and dragons constantly battling each other, and on a particular day a young Viking lad called Hiccup goes into the woods and finds a dragon. He names it Toothless and he becomes friends with it. I can't really tell you the full story due to spoilers, and even though the film's been out for about 15 years, I still can't give you out spoilers, so if you haven't seen this film, I do recommend checking it out, but yeah, even though the topic is about How to Train Your Dragon, I'm not going to talk about the whole franchise, the series or the games, or even the original film itself, not even the books. I'm going to be talking about the one that was released this year, and it's titled the same name as the original 2010 movie, made by the same people who made the 2010 film, but it's a live-action adaptation. We are going to be talking about How to Train Your Dragon 2025. Let's get to it. 2025 has probably been the best year for DreamWorks movies. They released 2 movies known as The Dog Man and The Bad Guys 2, and they both became big successes, and I did get a chance to watch the sequel to Bad Guys, and I had a blast watching it. Simultaneously, DreamWorks decided that they wanted to remake one of the most beloved franchises and turn it into a live-action movie, quite similar to the way Disney's been doing with their movies. However, unlike Disney, I've been seeing a lot of people praising this particular film for what it was, and I did watch this film and noticed quite a few things that I'd like to talk about, so let's get to it. The casting had a couple of familiar faces that I did recognise, specifically the likes of Nick Frost from most of the Simon Pegg films, and Julian Dennison, sorry for butchering his name, but Julian, he played the Fire Fist in Deadpool 2, and I just liked his performance in that film. And ironically, in How to Train Your Dragon 2025, he plays the Fish Legs character. To be fair, I don't hate the actors in this film, but even when they're trying to portray the characters like in the original film, they don't look nearly as identical to the ones in the original film. And some of them look so unrecognisable to a point where I was actually shocked when I found out who they were actually meant to be. In this version of the film, Stoic says that Vikings from all over the world come to kill dragons, something around there. And this gives people the hint of why everything's so diverse in here. Now, I know diversity is the thing that's been killing most remakes, let alone Disney ones, but I think this is one of the cases where diversity actually does work because, not to mention, How to Train Your Dragon has had diverse characters in the past, so let's not forget about that. Now, before I continue, I'd like to let you know that I was quite hesitant to actually review this film when it came out because, like I said before, I gone off How to Train Your Dragon in 2019. But I did remember back in 2018, I did have a lot to say about the original film. But when I got my YouTube channel, I just didn't really bother to like review it at any time. But then this movie came out, and I seen a lot of people. It was getting a lot of attention, a lot of people praising it. So I decided to right now would be the best time to talk about, give my opinion on the film. If you feel like the casting was inconsistent to what the original film portrayed them as, the performance that some of the actors give off, especially the likes of Hiccup, the performance that the actor gives off just feels like he's not interested. Like he feels like he just doesn't want to be there to do the acting. Take a look.
You, sir, are playing a dangerous game. Keeping this much raw Vikingness contained, there will be consequences.
You, sir, are playing a dangerous game. Keeping this contained, there will be consequences.
What I also would like to talk about is the two most iconic scenes within the whole film, that being the test drive scene and the forbidden friendship part. The test drive scene is considered by most of the fans to be the best scene in the entire film, which is quite ironic because it's actually my least favourite scene. My personal favourite scene would have to be the forbidden friendship part because it's the scene where Hiccup and Toothless go get to know each other, and it's also the scene where the frame of the cover of the film where Hiccup tries to put his hand on Toothless's nose. Yeah, that's the cover of the film, and it's just a very magical scene, and it just played out very well. The test drive scene, on the other hand, there was like this scene where like Hiccup and Toothless were like flying through. Like I get like they were trying to, like it was their first time flying, trying to figure out how to use it. But I remember in the animated movie, there was like a scene where like Toothless ends up hitting a bunch of rocks in clear sky. They were like meters apart from each other. He was going dead slow and he kept crashing into them. But and then later on, they start going through very thick fog, traveling at very fast speed, where there's millions of rocks in the fog, and they're all like tightly cramped together to where it like gives you claustrophobia. But they just go through dead fast without even bumping into any of them. And when I watched that scene back in 2018, I remembered being absolutely annoyed by it. I think it was because of how convenient they played it out in the original film. Like, I understand that they were it was meant to signify that Hiccup and Toothless are getting better at flying, but it was just too drastic. But in this new version, they did include that scene, and I think they did, out of all the things in this movie, the test flight scene is probably the thing that they did change up for the better, because I know that they were trying to go for like a more realistic approach, and they did precisely that, because the scene was more executed where Toothless was flying, very fast speeds, but then hits one single rock, and then when they go through the what you think would be the fog, they actually got rid of the fog and just did it the same way they did the previous scene, and then played it out from there without no fog. So I think it was a better interpretation of the original film, because it made more, wouldn't say it made more sense, but it just worked more smoothly. Another scene that I didn't particularly hate in the 2025 version would be the part where Hiccup tries to cut open Toothless. Now, I'm a bit mixed over it because in the original film, Hiccup makes it very clear what his intention is when he tries to like stab Toothless. But in the new version, he like tries to do it, but without saying anything. But in the new version, you could actually see him with how his expression. He looks like he has got like a bit of a sympathetic expression on him. So, but in the old version, he's eager to do it, but at the same time, he hesitates physically. But in the new version, he like hesitates emotionally, which I think is a good detail. But yeah, at the same, yeah, again, I am very mixed on it, so I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. The test drive scene in this film was acceptably brilliant, but I can't really say the same thing for many of the other scenes. Most of these scenes within this 2025 version, when compared to the original, they all happen like dead quickly. Like, say, for example, when Toothless gets his wing put on him on the tail, he like drops the box of fish and then just starts spreading his wings. But in the original film, he drops the box and then he starts like, thinking about, just realizing what Hiccup's doing, and then takes his time to eventually open up his wings and start flying off. So, in my opinion, I think most of the scenes in this movie felt very rushed. Spoilers, by the way, but we all pretty much know the story at this point. The climax to the film played out the same way as the originals, and it did include the Red Death, but...
Jesus Christ!
What in God's name have they done to the Red Death? This isn't the Red Death. This looks more like the creature from Clash of the Titans. They have literally just over-exaggerated the size for absolutely no reason. Like, I get it's big, but there was just no need to over-exaggerate its size. Because from what I'm seeing, it just literally takes up the entire screen, let alone the island that it's attacking the Vikings on. Now, if I'm being brutally honest, I really do not have anything else to say about this film. The ending, it literally plays out the same way as the original film, and that's just about it. In fact, it's just literally the original film but it's live action. And that is all I have to say about How to Train Your Dragon 2025. It wasn't a very displeasing film. It was very typically filmed, just with the CGI and everything. But for the most part, I don't think it was as good as what most of the people try to make it out to be, because I will agree, it did have some good parts, but for the most part, it was just a shot-by-shot remake of the original. And if we're talking live-action movies, we all know Disney is well known for recreating their films, but with putting a live-action twist to them. But the likes of The Lion King, I'd rather side off with The Lion King's fan base, because at least they know which movie's good and which one's not. I think we can pretty much all agree that the 2D Lion King movie from 1994 is the best one. The same can also be said for How to Train Your Dragon. The CGI, the film from 2010, right, is easily the best one. But even though there were certain scenes that I didn't like in the film, I still think nothing can beat the original. The original is the original. And I think making this live action movie was a bit pointless, and I personally don't understand the hype for it. I get it's How to Train Your Dragon, and I know it's got a big fan base, but I don't think it's as good as what most people make it out to be. I feel just like the Lion King movie, it was a shot-by-shot remake of the original. And I feel like the reason why the fans were calling it good was because they were hooked with nostalgia for it. I feel like they just love the original film too much to even hate this one. And if that is the case, then yeah. But anyway, if you think I've been a bit too harsh on the film, then just let me know in the comments. That is it for this video. I am Star Invader, and I'll see you all in the next video.